That's right.
All right. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of The Unusual Suspects. This episode 87. We did have a special vice presidential debate, one which Viva, you loved Waltz, right? You said he's one of the best.
Yeah, I could see my hand and screen. Hi, thumbs up. Yes. Sorry about that, people. I got distracted. No. Yeah, the Walls. What's his face? JD Vance. Amazing.
Really amazing.
But that was one heck of a night to be live streaming.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah, we had what, 5,000 people watching. For all the new subscribers out there that came in, we love you guys. Welcome. But yeah, we have a lot to talk about today. I'm gonna go around and introduce everybody just really, really fast. Obviously, David,
Viva.
How's
it going?
Viva, Brandon, Rob,
hi,
Connor. Everybody's here.
So happy.
Yeah. So Connor's gonna be talking about. What are you gonna be talking about?
So a lot of our stories are about Hurricane Helene today.
Obviously,
one of the things I'm covering is a little bit less reported. Is that the storm might actually be about to destroy international semiconductor manufacturing, which could affect everything in ways we aren't even anticipating right now.
Well, great. Great.
It's alarming.
So not good. Brandon, what are you talking about?
Yeah, so this is one of the most sick, twisted things I've seen in my life, the lack of attention and response to the hurricane in North Carolina. And I mean, I'm going to show some data and stuff, but it's weird how they treated Hurricane Katrina, which was like, a more urban Democrat area. Now, maybe because this is a Republican area, they're not giving it as much attention, but there's some like the really weird questions that are coming up about this. Like they're not even letting first responders help.
Oh, well, trust me, I'm going to be getting that too. Rob, what are you talking about?
The Maryland Police Department and the Department of Justice have agreed to pay $3 million to black people and women who failed the troopers test because they were disproportionately disqualified due to their race and gender.
Oh, great.
Oh, my God.
What are you talking about?
A little known or lesser known subject, this woman, Tina Peters, out of Colorado. She was a Colorado clerk for the
blonde chick?
Yeah. Oh, a 69-year-old blonde-ish woman.
Yeah.
She was sentenced yesterday after having been convicted of election interference, which was like influencing or attempting to influence public officials. 9 years in jail she was sentenced. We're going to get to it. It's an outrage injustice that not enough people know about.
Wow.
Oh, my God. Well, guess what? Well, we might as well just get right into it because I'm beyond furious about this hurricane response. It's almost as if every single time something happens, there's, we weren't ready. There wasn't enough resources. Something was going off. And I just want this should prove to every American that this administration, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, do not care if you, as an American, live or die. I don't know how many times they have to prove it to you guys with the open border, with all the fentanyl, with all the freaking gangs, with all the terrorists. And now when disaster strikes, there's nowhere to be found. They wait for a freaking week to start talking into a freaking microphone. First, I have a video. Kelly, do you have a video?
Yeah, it's crazy.
This is the one where they graciously pride themselves on giving
this is
dollars.
This is the Joe Biden. This is the first one saying that there's no more resources he could give to the victims. Go ahead, Kelly, play this video.
Yes, actually, matter of fact, the sign to get just sacking up her. The shooters live on the ground, Florida right out. It was finishing the cheer and the opportunity to make sure to finish the activity here. But I hope of being stolen. It was something you can go away, I saw them both. Stunning, but then some of them really had to be late. So it's such a wide area. I know after and if they be giving all those weak wall and then you let it down, you can give every panel tasks that in the farm.
Are there any more resources to government?
Any more resources?
Oh, it's dope.
Tell me.
Can we address the elephant in the room? That man is still allegedly president of the United States of America.
Yeah.
He looks, it's not to make fun of my grandmother because my grandmother lives to 103. Yeah. That's what my grandmother looked like when she was out to lunch, had no idea where she was, and was reliant on other people for support. This man's supposed to be leading the most powerful nation on earth. Everybody knows it's a joke. It's a sick joke.
100%. And Rob,
well, we had Kevin McCarthy on, and he was talking about watching Joe Biden's cognitive decline behind the scenes. And it's so frustrating that the American people have been lied to for the past 3 years, 3.5 years by this administration, who has continued to cover up his cognitive decline. And then when you called it out, they gaslit you, told you were a crazy conspiracy theorist for believing that. But you look at him, the guy's got, and I hate to be that guy to judge looks, and I'm certainly not one to do that, look at myself, but the guy's got liver spots. Like when you start, like he looks so much older than the guy that we had in 2020. And even then, he looked old. But the rapid acceleration, remember how young Barack Obama looked when he was elected compared to the Barack Obama post office?
Yeah.
Like it looked like two different people. Joe Biden is decaying in front of our very eyes.
Yeah, it's horrible, bro. And I think there's another video that drove me crazy. And again, it's almost as if it's comedy to the fact that we're just supposed to accept this. All we do, all we can do is kind of talk crap. The Democrats are just shameless in the fact that they basically did the switcheroo, they did the coup, but it's like we're watching this guy. He's clearly not in charge. This is more evidence that he's never been in charge. Kamala isn't in charge because she has no idea what the hell she's doing. We all know it's the powers that be and it's the freaking elites that are above it. But then this is another video where he says, American guys, we don't have enough money. So you know what Joe Biden says? That we're going to have to help fund the recovery of Hurricane Helene in North Carolina. Play this video.
We have rivers that are still rising. The danger is still occurring for a lot of people.
And by the way, as the FEMA can tell you, they had pre-positioned an awful lot of material throughout that area, from Bend all the way up into Tennessee. And so the idea that we weren't prepared, the question is, no one knew exactly how devastating it would be. We knew it would be significant, and we've got a lot already in place, but there's more. But here's the point. I'm going to be asking the American people to continue to help fund the needs of these people. It's not going to be one hit and it's over. It's going to take a hell of a long time. It's going to cost a hell of a lot of money. But this is the United States of America.
Yeah,
We've got to do it.
Yeah, do you know that?
You know what our federal budget is? It's $5 trillion a year, and they've never stayed under budget once. And they spend an extra $1.6 trillion this year and years prior. And they're saying they don't have enough. Like FEMA alone had a $1.4 billion budget. They spent that all on the immigration stuff. You're telling us we can't. Like they're spending $200 billion a month for quantitative easing during COVID just to keep interest rates at the level they liked it at. So they can't just give some money to the people of North Carolina who are floating around right now.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say two things. First of all, this is exactly what Justin Trudeau did in Canada when we had the hurricanes that hit Nova Scotia. The federal government pisses away the money funding foreign conflict, much like what Trudeau did, and then makes the people fundraise for their own existence, for their own survival, because they can't rely on the federal government who's already squandered away your money. The federal government has lost more money in unaccounted for monies that were laundered through Ukraine than they've spent rebuilding Lahaina, East Palestine, and now North Carolina and Georgia. They've lost more in accounting errors. They don't give a sweet bugger all. They make more work for themselves, and they get to then say, look at how catastrophic this was in 2 years' time. There'll be, I think, probably closer to 500 people dead. Yeah. They'll say, look how many people died in that hurricane. It's evidence of climate change. Not evidence of incompetent, corrupt government.
And by the way,
then what do? They spend more money to fight climate change instead of having that money available for resources to give to the American public that are impacted by these freak storms. Tell me that climate change caused that hurricane that hit North Carolina, the mountains of North Carolina, and then wiped it out. And then on top of that, and I know Brandon's going to talk about like weather seeding and stuff like that, but it just comes out the other day that the UAE is going to extend their cloud seeding program. So they're talking about weather manipulation and stating that it exists. But then when you talk about it in America, like, no. But then you look at the planes, they've had newscasts. I wish we could find it. There's a newscast online where there's a woman describing how they're spraying the aluminum into the air to combat climate change from these planes. So they spend more money fighting this boogeyman that doesn't exist, and then the resources aren't there when a storm that they engineer, that's my opinion, then strikes.
Yeah, no, yeah. And by the way, and the best guy, and the best, this is my favorite guy, Rob, the rat, Alejandro Mayorkas. Dude, I despise this individual, and I have to pray for this dude because he knows exactly what the hell he's doing. He is trying to destroy this freaking country. He's a freaking lapdog for this administration. He said he's just warned us that FEMA doesn't have enough funding to last throughout this hurricane season. But here's a video of him a while back saying that we got all the money in the world. FEMA's chilling. Son, Kelly, play this video.
FEMA is tremendously prepared. This is what we do. This is what they do. And the key here, Rebecca, is also to make sure that the communities who are potentially impacted are prepared as well.
Yeah. Okay. Let me give you guys a little, just FYI, of how much money, because everything comes down to money. Let's do brass tacks. It's about the money. So far this year, the United States has given. Are you guys ready for this? This is 1 year, Connor. $24,400,000,000 to Ukraine, $11,300,000,000 to Israel, $1,950,000,000 to Ethiopia, $1.6 billion to Jordan, $1.4 billion to Egypt, $1.1 billion to Afghanistan, $1.1 billion to Somalia, $1.1 billion to Yemen, $987 million to Congo, $896 million to Syria, and $9,000 plus per illegal immigrant that has entered the United States of America. Okay, I'm sick and tired of these. I can't even cuss. They're giving our money to everybody else, and then we have people dying. Literally, me and Kelly were talking about this. I don't want to play the video because I don't want to get emotional back-to-back episodes. This lady's crying in her house, Rob. She's seeing the river that's in front of her house, and babies, dead bodies, are flying down. Dude, I don't even want to get into it. And then this is a couple days ago, Kami Kamala comes out and says people impacted by the hurricane are going to get $750 each. And what drives me crazy, this is Viva's Twitter X post, and I'm going to read your comments on this. Viva, if you could have it. I mean, I think it's going to be on the screen, Kelly. We'll zoom out. Pay attention. Look at how she's strategically set up with the backdrop of a destroyed home. That family is effed, but she had to set up her stupid presidential podium and wear that emergency jacket and play this video, Kel.
And the federal relief and assistance that we have been providing has included FEMA providing $750 for folks who need immediate needs being met, such as food, baby formula, and the like. And you can apply now for anyone who's watching this who has been affected. There are FEMA personnel who are going door to door to interact personally with folks, especially those who do not have electricity. But also that aid, if you have electricity, can be applied for
If you have electricity, apply for it.
And I encourage people
Where are you going to
do that.
spend it?
FEMA will just basically verify your address, and then process should take.
She sets up in front of a broken house and then mentions the 750. Like
she's
that
standing, Molly. That's a photo. I want to come to you, Molly. This is Viva's tweet, and don't forget what you're gonna say.
What's gonna come up?
Viva posted. Oh, this is it. $750. If you even have internet to apply for it online, $750 whole dollars. That's 3 nights in a hotel, depending on what hotel you're gonna get. If it's not destroyed or underwater, or a week worth of food for a family, the choice is all yours. $200 billion to Ukraine. An idiot sociopath tweeted. What were they saying, Dave?
Sycophants. They were saying this is what a real leader looks like. Like she gives that speech, and the idiot Twitter accounts, and we all know them by now. Like, this is what leadership.
Let me
looks
guess.
like.
Crowds and scenes.
Well, I don't even know what the cross. I muted them. I cannot stand their noise anymore. But this is coming from the same people
Harry says,
who they accuse Trump of staging photo ops for political purposes. She sits up in front of someone's destroyed house and then seemingly prides herself on offering them and it is a piddly in the context of this, $750. And she looks ashamed. Like, if you look at her body language, she's turtled over. She's like playing with her hands like, holy crap, I'm going to get chewed out for this. But then, get my army of bots to say what leadership looks like. This is what leadership looks like. Squander the money away.
I disagree. I think she's so out of touch, she doesn't even know that $750 is not a lot of money. I think she has no idea. I mean, this is the same woman that wore $40,000 pearl necklace to the border as immigrants are rushing into our country and going, everything's fine. Like, this woman has lost her mind. She doesn't relate to the average person. And to her, $750, she probably thinks that's a month's rent for somebody. When in reality, that is not even, that's what? For a family of 3, that's probably, if there is a grocery store open, that's probably 1 or 2 trips to the grocery store. Thank you for 2 weeks worth of groceries.
If there's food on the shelves, if the store is open, if you can get to a hotel to even stay in the it's an absolute insult.
Like during COVID, when they said, okay, here's your stimulus check, $1,400. What they were expecting is that everybody would go out and use that for, rent or whatever. Nobody can rent for $1,400 anymore.
Anywhere.
Like, you try to get a studio apartment in a major city, and it's going to be like a flat $2,000 right off the bat. So it wasn't helping. These people have no idea what things cost anymore, and it's their fault they cost so much in the first place. You could get a lot more for $750 at a grocery store under Trump.
You're in a dire emergency situation. You got Pete Buttigieg saying, "Where nobody go there. You can't fly drones over to help people to even find out who the survivors are." And by all accounts, they've ordered more body bags than the 110 known fatalities that they've announced. And then you get her standing in front of someone's disaster, saying we're doing good work here, $750, but our hands are kind of tied because we've pissed away $650 million on illegal immigrants through the federal emergency program because we've created a federal emergency through our immigration policies, which isn't a crisis, but it's Trump's fault for not stopping it.
Dude,
it's scary.
Go ahead, Brandon.
No, it's scary though, like that how far wrapped up people get in like the whole politics thing, because like, how could people not be outraged about this? Like, even if you hate Trump, like, how could you not separate
the hate for him, Brandon? Because the hate for him is so hardcore and so prevalent.
Yeah.
They don't. You think? By the way, if you are any of you guys in here, anybody at home, if you're living in North Carolina, any of those affected places, are you gonna vote for this freaking administration? Are you gonna vote for these sons of?
That's the thing.
Can they vote?
That's the thing, and I'll get into that later. But all these places are red areas, and they're completely cut off from society right now. So there's a good chance they might not be able to vote.
When you look at the destruction, we see it a lot in Florida, right? It's really weird for me because I have like this weird survivor's guilt. Hurricane Irma, I believe it was called, hit a few years ago, wiped out all of the west coast of Florida. Fort Myers, Cape Coral area.
Yeah, I remember.
We literally had moved from Cape Coral to here a month before.
Wow.
This Hurricane Helene, wiped out the entire town of Treasure Island, where my family and I lived for 6 years. Beautiful little island, gone. But feet of sand in the streets. Every home had 6 feet of water inside. It's gone. That being said, we live in Florida. We expect hurricane season to happen. We have flood insurance. We have things to protect ourselves. Yep. You think any of those homes in the mountains of North Carolina had flood insurance? No. Not a single one. And you're going to turn and give them $700. Are we past 8 minutes? You're going to give them $750 fucking dollars and then act like that's a lot of money? Shame on you. Have you guys ever heard of use it or lose it spending?
Yes.
Where it's year end, the government has a surplus of money left over for their spending. So what the government does, rather than saving that money, giving it back to the people who gave it to them, the taxpayers, they go and waste that money, because if they have that money left over for the following fiscal year, Vinnie, then they won't get a larger budget. So some examples of that, 2019, the Department of Defense spent $8,000 on new office chairs, even though they didn't need to, in the last week of the fiscal year, just to get rid of those chairs, get new chairs, so they could get a bigger budget for the following year. It's dumb examples like that. It's stupid, but in 2010, federal agencies were found overspending $500,000 on public relations and advertising at the end of the year, including $150,000 on a radio campaign that wasn't crucial, just so they could get a larger advertising and media campaign. Give that money to the American people. Why do we keep acting like this is fine? Why are we not having a bigger say in where our tax dollars are spent than in these midterm elections and these presidential elections every 4 years? That doesn't change shit anyway.
Yeah, I wrote an analogy of how, and I love that you said that it's our money, bro. This is our money that's just getting sent to all these places. The analogy is like how they treat our money. It's like, can you imagine having a piggy bank and you bust your ass filling that piggy bank with all your money, thinking for life. Then you're out doing your thing. Your parents take, and you're saving it for emergencies too. Your parents take that money and they start giving it to the neighbors. Then you come home, something bad happens, and you're like, Mom, my leg, and they're like, oh shit, sorry. We gave it to everybody in the neighborhood. No, F that. That's our money, bro. And bro, and think about it, we're just throwing out the numbers, all the numbers I wrote, 26 billion, 9 billion, 8 billion. Do you realize how much money that is? Well, all the money that you bust your ass, all of you guys busting your asses at work, second jobs, doing all your shit, paying all the taxes, it ain't going to you. And this is a prime example of them not giving a shit if you live or if you die.
And what have you ever heard them say? We don't have the money to do something when they wanted to do it.
Never. They always have money.
$6 trillion in 2 years during COVID.
I gave you two very small examples. In 2014, the Department of Veteran Affairs was scrutinized after they spent more than $20 million on new artwork in various offices, including sculptures and paintings purchased at the end of the fiscal year to get a bigger budget.
Rob,
now, how do you guys feel that your tax? Have you ever seen the paintings that are in the Department of Veteran Affairs office in Washington? Any one of you?
Nope.
But all of our money went to it.
And I'm
Rob,
a veteran.
that created American jobs by buying that artwork. They were funding philanthropy.
Yeah, guess who made the paintings?
Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden paintings.
No, but the amazing thing is, you give the number for Ukraine. Let's see, what was it, $27 billion this year, and then you go back to that CBS report from 2022. when they rightly reported that only 30% of any aid was making it to the front line, which means there's a loss of 70%. But rounded down, say it's 30% loss. What's 30% of $27 billion? It's more than would have been required to rebuild Lahaina, East Palestine, and all of these affected states. But it's such an emergency to ship that money out so fast with no oversight. They're willing to agree to the loss because of the urgency. But this is not a sufficient urgency to maybe just not give that much money either going forward or think about how you spent it in the past, because when it comes time to need it, it's not there anymore.
Dude,
there's layers and layers and layers of dirtiness to this, though, because the whole Russia-Ukraine thing didn't even need to happen. We know they provoked them into that, so they provoked them into this war to keep the military-industrial complex going, and then on top of that, they rapidly spend all this money on that didn't need to happen, and then intentionally slap us in the face and spit in our face and don't give us what it would cost, a measly $700 million or $1 billion. That's what FEMA's budget is.
Yeah, that's the problem.
That's pennies to them.
Yeah.
They don't view us as a real country. America to these people is just an economic zone, a place where there's no cultural identity, there's no people group, there's no borders. It's just the zone that's making them money, and they will take everything we generate for them and send it out wherever they want. Our government, our leaders,
or the globalists.
I had a joke, but I won't make it.
Yeah, but I think we all know who the other they that we're not saying here is.
No, but there is clearly an establishment that works behind the scenes to the disadvantage.
That's not Michael Bowen. John was Michael Bowen, who just debated Vivek on stage yesterday.
John Bolton.
John Bolton was like, because Vivek is breaking his ass down. He's like, the deep state. There's no deep state. He's like, you're in the deep state. You are the deep state. You Yosemite Sam mustache having son of a bitch.
Don't you understand? They tell you it's not happening, then they tell you it's a good thing it's happening. Was it George Stephanopoulos who said that the deep state is a bunch of patriots looking out for America?
Yeah.
So it doesn't exist, and it's a good thing that it does. And then you go back to the border crisis. There's no border crisis, but there's such a border crisis. We need to get FEMA involved, and now there's no money left, and it's Trump's fault.
And that's what I was going to say.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
To them,
it's like a bad girlfriend.
Our money does not exist. Our money is not backed by anything. They can print up however much they want. They've proven they're willing to blow up the inflation rate when it suits them. So they could just make more money that's useless and backed by nothing but government fiat and, okay, use this to fix the problem. But they won't do that for us because that solves the problem. And lest you think this is just a leftist Democrat thing, Vinnie, we were just watching before the show, Lindsey Graham was being interviewed on Fox News, I think it was.
Yeah.
And while there's footage of the hurricane destruction playing in the background, he's talking about, and Israel is surrounded on all sides by people who want to wipe them out.
He has to bring it.
Has to bring it back to that because that's the pet project of the Republicans who want to take our money and send it elsewhere too. Yep. They do not care about the people who live here because all we are numbers on a page that generate dollars for them to send to the things they really do care about.
Yep. The most powerful group of people in the world, though, is the American population because we're the biggest consumption base in the world, and that's where they get all their money from. The $5 trillion a year, the $27 trillion GDP, that's all the American people. Yep. And if we just have the balls to collectively say we're done with that.
Brandon, it'll never happen unless America. Dude, look at the distractions: race, gender,
divide and conquer,
economic status, sports, football, Yankee. There's so much that we don't give a shit, bro.
The fact that some people are out there talking about sports right now is driving me crazy. The fact that they're siphoning off our talk. I loved sports more than anybody, just a few years ago. But right now, they're just bending us over and shoving it up our ass.
Oh, and you don't have a break, Rob, because I know you're itching. We don't get a break. Look at the cycle of seasons, football, baseball. It's like, can we give us a break? Can we take a year off of sports? That's why, you know how important of a distraction sports is? Remember in COVID? The biggest thing they were talking about is, when is baseball going to come back? Yeah. Who gives a shit?
Yeah.
Okay? And that's why they're paying them $250 million contracts, because they, hey, look over here. Give a shit about Taylor Swift went to a football game. I don't care. There's people literally drowning in the street. And Kelly, your family's directly affected by this. Am I correct?
Yeah, my mother gives us an update about every other day and says that, this morning she texted me and she said we are in our second week without power. They have no running water. My grandmother is over 90 years old, and if anything happens to her, the roads are still blocked by trees. There's power lines down. It's going to be hard for her to get to a hospital or anything like that. So thankfully, my brother he lives on a hill. He just bought this apartment a month ago, and underneath that hill, all of those homes are gone and people died. His neighbors died.
Jeez.
So my family is struggling, and my family volunteers at church. They're trying to help rescue people. there's like some crazy stuff happening down there, and I'm so frustrated because I mean, I'm offering all the support I can. I'm visiting there. I'm helping them do stuff. My brother's driving water to people, but yet the government I don't feel supported. I don't feel support from my family.
Kelly, how are they?
Strangers in another country that might have, things against us are getting.
How's your family?
You don't really know what's happening, like, when this stuff happens until it happens to you. Like, we see hurricanes, we hear people die, and we're like, oh, that's so sad. But to hear my brother's story about, like, his neighbors that are dead and then the people that he interacted with, because he went down there to help, like, look for them. And he gets down there and people are like, everything's just gone, and there's, like, bodies floating, and it's really, really sad and scary. And overnight this happened, right? So I could have lost my mother. I could have lost my brother. My family's so faithful and like I said, they're volunteering at church, so they feel very blessed. They feel very grateful. But other people that might not have that not easygoing, but that kindness temperament about them, they're struggling and they're suffering, and everything they have is gone. Businesses are gone. Their homes are gone, and their towns are gone. Their friends are gone. And it's so sad. And so, my family will never tell you that they're frustrated because they have much faith.
Temperament.
They have a really good temperament. They have so much faith. And they're like, we're so blessed to be alive. They're so grateful for that. And which makes me even angrier because I want more for my brother's neighbors. I want more for my brother. I want more for my mother and my grandmother who are sitting in the dark right now.
Jeez.
So I love you guys. And I know that there are people helping you. But I want more for people in North Carolina.
My family's actually in a very similar boat.
Sorry, Cal.
Yeah. My family's in a similar boat because my parents live 45 minutes west of Asheville. So their home is okay. There's a gigantic mudslide in their neighborhood.
I saw the
most of the houses up that far in the mountains are on generators, so a lot of people didn't lose power immediately, but internet was gone, cell service was out. So there's people just up the mountain stranded. If they can't drive down because of a mudslide, they have no way to get in touch with anybody. My dad worked.
You remember, like, when Katrina hit, for anybody who was young enough or old enough to remember, and they were claiming racism. They're saying, oh, this is Bush's lack of responses because it's black population.
George Bush doesn't care about
black people. When you operate on the basis of the iron law of woke projection that all progressives, liberals, and capital D Democrats do is accuse their adversaries of doing what they're doing, that would imply that the neglect right now would probably be on the basis of political prejudice because of the areas. I've seen videos of people online saying, I bet a bunch of racists just got what they deserved out there and all this,
Of course.
There's an argument to be made, or at least you can lend credence to the suspicion that the neglect or the poor response, if Bush's response to Katrina was race-based, then theirs is politically prejudice-based, and they know that these are reddish-leaning areas. So let them have a lesson of life about climate change.
It doesn't help that Asheville was the bluest part of North Carolina. So it completely undermines their point if they're happy about it, but even so.
And I want to show...
They're just celebrating the fact that people they think are the wrong demographic
and I want to
destroyed.
And I want to show, and to just not to get people like Kelly and their families even madder, that when the sitting president of the United States has no idea what the hell these people are talking about when they say that they're in a storm zone, he doesn't know what storm they're talking about. Kelly, can you play this video?
What does the state of the storm zone need, Mr. President? What are the states of the storm zone? What do they need after what you saw today?
Oh, in the storm zone?
Oh. Yes, sir.
I don't know what storm you're talking about.
Storm. What storm are you talking about?
They're very happy across the board.
Very happy across the board. And let me explain something to you guys. In this time, and I'm speaking for people like Kelly and their families and all the families that are always affected by this type of disaster, they need to see a leader. They need to see somebody that's there that gives a damn about them, to give them hope, to give them comfort, okay? Joe Biden's on vacation. Kamala just showed up to do that thing. You know who was on the ground? Trump. Trump was flying to all these places and letting them see his face. Dude, he was getting briefings from the military. He's not the sitting president, but the military knows what's up, bro. These guys are MIA. This guy's on the ground. Remember when I think there was something in Puerto Rico happened? There was
another hurricane.
There was a hurricane. Even when Trump was like there, just giving them paper towels and stuff, they're like, oh my God, he's throwing them at them. Nothing that Trump could do is right. But in this situation, bro, Shame on them, bro. It drives me crazy.
To highlight also, Trump started, I'm almost reluctant to mention the name of the fundraiser.
The GoFundMe.
The GoFundMe.
Millions.
2 million now.
I think it's
I say, and I'm not going to fault Trump for doing the right thing, and there's no but to that. Just next time, Trump, use Give, Send, Go so that people who want to support, I will not give $1 to GoFundMe. So there is a Give, Send, Go campaign called the 2024 Hurricane Relief. So you go to Give, Send, Go, and it's 2024 Hurricane Relief Fund.
Okay.
And it's now it was at 15,000 yesterday. Now it's at 45,000.
Okay. I'm gonna give to that when we're done.
Yeah, because nobody should use GoFundMe. It's Give, Send, Go. That's the only one. And I DM'd
Give,
someone.
Send, Go, and they'll just go to
It's going to select and recognize charities. I messaged
help the
Jacob
people?
Wells yesterday, the CEO. He reassured me it's legit. It's the best.
I'm gonna do that.
And I DM'd someone within the Trump campaign. Don't use GoFundMe anymore. It's only Give.
I'll throw this out there just because this is very important that it's being discussed by a lot of people online who are on the ground with this. FEMA is being accused of taking donations and of money and of resources and not giving them to the people in North Carolina. They just add it to their pool of resources to use whatever. So if you donate to FEMA directly or to any of these organizations working with FEMA, there's a chance that they will take your money and use it to fund the migrant crisis or use it to bundle in with their other responses because they can do whatever they want with it once the money goes to them. So GoFundMes, or not GoFundMes, the Give, Send, Goes, the local charities, the churches, work with them because the government is lying to you about what they are doing.
And I know this statement that I'm going to say right now is not going to affect the brainwashed Trump's a Hitler morons, but for anybody that was undecided, anybody that's kind of just on the fence and you want to sit this one out, let this disaster, and look at, I could have come, I mean, it's horrible, but it couldn't come at a more important time to show everybody, come November, this is what your government, your active leading people in the government right now, think about you. They don't give a shit if you're literally, your dead body is going downstream because Israel is first, Ukraine is first, Congo, Taiwan, all these places matter because it's business, because war and funding this shit is business. And this is the clip right here that Connor was talking about. Guys, people are dead. Children, women, Kelly's family, she's talking about the neighbors are freaking dead. Lindsey Graham takes this thing, and look what he brings in. He brings in Israel. Show this clip.
You can Trump and Elon Musk for that. Bullet. You know, I've been going all over South Carolina like most people. I hadn't slept much. But look what's going on in Israel. Our friends in Israel are surrounded by people that want to kill them, destroy them, a second Holocaust in the making. And Biden says be proportional. What is the proportional response? The people want to kill you and your family. They're running out of ammunition in Israel. We have to help our friends.
How can you help your God
over there from coming
citizens?
here? The world is...
No, we have to help our friends. First of all, at the risk of saying something that's going to be politically incorrect, this is how you propagate and generate and exacerbate anti-Semitic sentiment. Very clear. It's a non sequitur. And you imagine that there's Americans who are going to say, did he just say that? We got to take care of our friends before we take care of our citizens? It's dereliction of duty. 100%. And it's not just a capital D Democrat thing. This is a uni-party thing. It was a Republican entity that evil Dick Cheney, who's now supporting Kamala Harris, that they made a lot of money off of their funneling monies to fund foreign wars.
Of course.
But that is exactly how you perpetuate stereotypes and exacerbate anti-Semitic sentiment.
Yep, I agree. All right, guys, we're gonna move on to the next story. Connor, I mean, we're kind of staying on this, but I mean, I think that's the biggest story. I can give two craps right now about Diddy and how many people he's sleeping with. The underage thing pisses me off, but Connor, what's going on with courts there? What's happening?
Yeah, so Vinny, you mentioned when you were reading off all the people they were giving money to, Taiwan was on the list.
Yes.
I'll just, off the top of your head, do you remember why Taiwan is so important to the U.S.?
Teacher?
Go ahead.
Semiconductors.
Yes, because Taiwan basically it's the only place on Earth making semiconductors for the entire global tech sector. Turns out, North Carolina is also a critical stopping point in that entire industry. While there's all the destruction in Asheville and Chimney Rock, which have been basically wiped off the face of the earth right now, there is also a lot of attention being turned to the tiny town of Spruce Pine, North Carolina. It's buried up in the Appalachian Mountains. It's got a population of about 2,000 people. It was a railroad town founded in the early 1900s. Tiny little speck of a city. But it is home to the largest deposit of high-purity quartz on the planet. It's America's only deposit of this, and one of the largest known on the planet. If we can go to the next slide here, I'll show you the map. This is where it is. Just right there, middle of nowhere.
Okay.
It's not close to anything. But the reason this place is so important to global semiconductor manufacturing is the quartz is harvested out of the mine, where the crystal is then ground up into sand that is used to turn into glass to make crucibles for molten silicon, which is used in circuit board manufacturing. It's because it's able to withstand high heat, and also because it is clean. It's able to be purified down to like the atomic level. And I know this is very technical, and if you're not interested in circuit board manufacturing, you might
Rob just fell asleep. Rob is sleeping.
Well, no, I'm creating semiconductor.
Yeah. But it's extremely important because this one obscure little thing, tiny town where they're pulling rocks out of a mine, is the backbone of the entire semiconductor industry. You cannot make circuit boards and semiconductors without these crucibles to refine the silicon to develop them. You can use less pure quartz, but it takes way longer and is infinitely more expensive. So I pulled the stats here. I have this report at vt.com if you're interested in reading about it. But basically what it means is that spruce pine supplies 70% of the world's naturally occurring high-purity quartz.
Can we put this up? Can we put this up so they can see it?
Throw that up if you want to read along with that. They produce 70% of the world's naturally occurring high-purity quartz, which places the town securely at the center of a $500 billion microchip industry that supports the $3 trillion global tech sector. In the storm, this town received over 2 feet of rain, washed away roads, knocked out public utilities, and it closed the 2 refining facilities where the quartz is processed. So there's been no information on when these things will reopen. The 2 companies put out statements, hey, right now we're concerned about the safety of our employees. We're trying to, assess damage. We're not going to reopen until their personnel is secure, which is, good for them. It's nice to see a company that's actually not, just
saying the hell with everybody. We're trying to make our money.
Exactly. But with no reopening date on these facilities, what it means is the global supply of quartz is going to quickly dry up. The short term, they're not expecting a doomsday scenario if it's, a couple weeks at most. Most places that do the refining have a supply. If it goes on for more than a few weeks, though, it will start to dry up, and there won't be anything left to use for processing more semiconductors, which will cause the supply of electronics to drop, the cost of everyday goods to shoot up at the same time. And this is on top of the port strike that just ended in a tentative agreement. But costs could skyrocket from this. And this is really the problem of when our government turns its back on us, when it abandons the people of these areas to sort out their own problems and says, we're not coming to help you. This has global implications, and they're completely ignoring it. No big media outlets have talked about this except for, I think, Bloomberg about 2 days ago. So we're screwed if they don't help fix this.
What are semiconductors used for the most?
Basically every electronic.
Everything.
Your phone, your computer, your appliances. They're in everything has a computer chip in it.
So you're saying it's bad for the production of semiconductors because the area is being damaged?
Yes.
I think people are looking at it the opposite way, too. They're saying that perhaps this area being damaged helps the people who want to mine for it, because the people who of this community didn't want to allow the mining that would be needed to take place to get this quartz and all that. But now they don't have flood insurance.
Mm-hmm.
These people aren't going to be able to keep their properties. It's going to be bought cheaply, and potentially the companies that want to do this mining are going to be able to do it much easier instead of having to, they could do eminent domain now too. Now they have to have a federal emergency situation there.
Yeah, and that's entirely possible.
That is one of the theories floating around, that whether or not this was directed weather or manipulated weather.
That's what Brandon's going
to. Yeah, we're going to get into that. But no, I would have gone the other way entirely and just said, well, they're going to go look for some overseas mine right now, and they'll go find something in Africa.
The other deposits that exist are in India and Brazil, but they are way smaller, and it's hard to get things out of India and Brazil. So that's why so much of it has come from this one place in North Carolina. Experts, continue to say, it's a huge problem to have everything with this one tiny choke point, but there's not much they can do about it. They need it as a natural resource. So to Brendan's point, if it's allowed where they're able to, push people out and take the land and use it as like a national security issue, I'm sure that could be a thing. But it shows how interconnected everything is. This tiny town of 2,000 people that's not on anybody's radar is basically sustaining the global tech sector right now. And nobody anticipated what would happen if this went offline. In the early 2000s, there was a fire that made the mines close for a couple days. It was some forest fire came through the area, and it rippled through the economy for months after that. And that was before the huge demand for semiconductors, because personal computing devices hadn't quite taken off the way they had or have by now. So when they continue to say, oh, FEMA doesn't have any more resources to give, here's your $750, we're going to have to bulldoze the town, everything's going to be shut down for, unknown lengths of time. It shows they're not thinking about what's going to happen beyond that.
They don't care. They don't
care about
they literally
that
don't care.
until it comes up where suddenly their pocketbooks are being audited.
The government is a make-work project where whenever they fail at doing their job, they give themselves more powers to rectify the emergency that was created through their incompetence. You get Elon Musk in an administration, and someone with business experience, practical technological experience, you might anticipate some of these problems and actually protect against them instead of always being reactive and then giving more power to the very people whose neglect led to the problem in the first place.
Rob, what are you going to say?
I was going to talk about the semiconductor chips, but I think we've moved on because he proved the point. My whole thing was when I totaled my Tesla, and because there was a problem with getting the chips made during COVID.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Of course.
So the value of my car skyrocketed because there was such a demand for Teslas, but I totaled it. So I ended up I probably shouldn't say this. But I ended up making money by totaling the car because they had to value the car at the time that the car was totaled at the market rate of the value, and the value had skyrocketed because of the lack of chips and the semiconductor issues due to COVID.
People who had their cars on leases with buyback options at the end of the lease, the companies were trying to screw them and find defaults out of the leases so they could take the cars back because they were worth more than the buyback in the lease.
So I feel terrible because there have been 2 times, because I did the same thing during COVID. COVID lasted a while. During COVID was when I sold my Nissan Altima for $7,000 more than what it was actually worth. It was the only 2 times in my life where I flipped or made money from having a used car. All of a sudden I was like, oh, I should get into the used car salesman business. I started watching all these TikTok videos, but now I'm here with you guys.
They wanted, before I was moving here, all that was happening, they wanted to buy my 2019 Toyota Corolla. I went to CarMax, and the guy's like, well, you only have a couple little miles because the pandemic, I didn't drive it at all. He's like, dude, they want to give me like 9,000 more than my car. And I was like, I got to move to Florida. I needed a freaking car, so I didn't do it.
I feel bad. All these people are suffering, and I'm like, I made off.
And Vinnie, you asked like what are the semiconductors in, and it's everything. But during COVID, when they couldn't get anything out of Taiwan, cars couldn't put seat warmers, onboard computers, phone manufacturing, computer manufacturing. Like, it all hinges on these little choke points. The reason we're pouring so much money into Taiwan right now is because if China invades, they get to control the entire global semiconductor market.
Yeah, so
and like that makes them the most powerful supplier on the planet.
Yeah, it's about money. It's not about giving a shit about the people in Taiwan. They don't care if anybody lives or dies. It's about money, and it's about them controlling that money. And China, I mean, bro, that's a whole nother freaking...
And that's why I really wanted to promote this story, because nobody's talking about it. It's being completely ignored by most media outlets. But if we can get, attention on it, maybe there's a chance somebody will step in and actually help out with it, because it proves this is the problem that could spiral out into a whole global issue.
It will certainly lend some more credibility to the fears that people have that the federal government's going to come in and just claim all of the land, not just for the quartz up in, what was the name of the town?
Spruce Pine.
Spruce Pine, but for the lithium that deposits that people believe is leading to this type of nationalization of private property.
Which leads us to our next story, Brandon, who's talking about, was it weather modification, Brandon, and how...
weather control, weather manipulation.
Oh, go ahead.
Whatever they're calling these days.
Go ahead.
All right, so
weather manipulation. This is something I've been talking about for a while, but as recent as a few months ago, people were laughing at me anytime I brought it up. Nobody takes like it sounds like a sci-fi thing, right? I mean, like, have you guys ever thought that was a real thing before this?
I didn't, but then Rob, I think, sent me one time what they were doing in the Middle East because they're like, bro, it doesn't rain. But then I started finding out in Dubai, they're like, hey, if you go to this address, it's gonna rain from like 4 to 6.
The first time
like,
I
wait, what?
First time I ever heard of it was some ridiculous movie with Gerard Butler called Geostorm. This came out like in the 2010s.
Yeah.
Whereas weather control satellites malfunction and there's catastrophic weather events happen. And it was like that was ridiculous. That could never happen. That's real.
In Vietnam, these are declassified CIA documents. In Vietnam, we were using cloud seeding to flood the Vietnamese. Wow. Yeah. So as far back as
work.
No, it worked. I mean, it did help us.
We
win.
lost the war.
Yeah. Seems.
Well, maybe we drowned some Vietnam.
That's right. Yeah. So we drowned some of them.
No, but we also used wooden guns that were, destined to fail. So I don't think we wanted to win that
Wait
war.
a minute. We used wooden guns?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Like our military-industrial complex sabotaged our guns by building them out of wood instead of fiberglass or metal or whatever.
Dolls with like the wood furniture on them.
Okay. Give my
I don't know yeah. There, but they're making fun of Marjorie Taylor Greene on Twitter today. The same usual suspects, pun intended, on the left. Because she said, it's a known thing that government has either been trying to control the weather or is in fact capable of it, just from your trusted source, Wikipedia. So if they say it, it's especially true. But yeah, the tactic, military and economic warfare, like Operation Popeye, where clouds were seeded to prolong the monsoon season in Vietnam.
Weird.
Now you get those hypocrite, waffling, moving goalposts and say, yeah, well, cloud seeding is not creating a storm to go and affect one, red state in America. Nobody's saying that, but sorry, I'm getting ahead of
No,
it.
you're good.
All good.
So we saw some of this, but there's like a second half of it where he says that they don't have enough money and shows how much they spend on.
This is Mayorkas?
Yeah, go to like a third of the way through it.
Right there.
His eyes exude evil. By the way, if I can read into that.
So this is where he said.
That's fine. We can watch it, Brandon.
Okay, yeah. Let's just run through it.
FEMA is tremendously prepared. This is what we do. This is what they do. And the key here, Rebecca, is also to make sure that the communities who are potentially impacted are prepared as well. And it's not just hurricanes and wildfires, also extreme heat, which certainly some parts of the United States are already experiencing.
Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas is sounding the alarm on FEMA funding right after the devastation of Hurricane Helene. Listen.
We are meeting the immediate needs with the money that we have. We are expecting another hurricane hitting. We do not have the funds. FEMA does not have the funds to make it through the season.
Well, you're fired.
This all comes as the Biden-Harris administration spent over $1 billion from a FEMA program on services for migrants.
Oh, so illegals are just getting all the cash.
Yeah, over $1 billion. And
by the way, but notice he said we don't have the money. What did he say? He says we don't have the money, or we no longer. It's not that we don't have the funds. It's not that they didn't have it. They had it. They pissed it away. Yep. And ordinarily, you would be fired at least and maybe investigated if they actually want to find out, well, where did the money go and how did you use it?
Oh,
right.
Of course.
Yeah, how about an audit like a lot of normal people
Oh,
get?
what do you mean? They'd have to audit themselves. It's auditors auditing. You're not going to get that, bro.
Apparently, our government hasn't been paying attention to how these things work because hurricanes hit every year in the same 4-month window. Yep. So if you don't anticipate a hurricane during hurricane season,
you're an idiot.
Then why do you have that job?
Yeah, you're an incompetent idiot.
Oh, you didn't expect that maybe one could happen, so we didn't budget for it.
It was
same time every year.
It was in April. It was I was pulling up the articles where April 2024. It was a publication in a Latina type magazine where they were proud about the fact that they were spending $650 million of FEMA money on towns that were harboring or letting in illegal aliens. That's April. And so you're squandering your budget before you know that the crises are going to happen. And then you say, I don't have the money when the time comes. Well, and what are the options? Well, let's go dip our hands into the back pocket of Americans for a little more.
Yep. And so just for some context for what we're about to get into, this is former CIA Director John Brennan in 2015 at the Council of Foreign Relations. So take a close listen to what he says here.
Another example is the array of technologies, often referred to collectively as geoengineering, that potentially could help reverse the warming effects of global climate change. One that has gained my personal attention is stratospheric aerosol injection, or SAI, a method of seeding the stratosphere with particles that can help reflect the sun's heat in much the same way that volcanic eruptions do. An SAI program could limit global temperature increases, reducing some risks associated with higher temperatures and providing the world economy additional time to transition from fossil fuels. This process is also relatively inexpensive. The National Research Council estimates that a fully deployed SAI program would cost about $10 billion yearly. As promising as it may be, moving forward on SAI would also raise a number of challenges for our government and for the international community. On the technical side, greenhouse gas emission reductions would still have to accompany SAI to address other climate change effects, such as ocean acidification, because SAI alone would not remove greenhouse gases from the atmosphere. On the geopolitical side, the technology's potential to alter weather patterns and benefit certain regions of the world at the expense of other regions could trigger sharp opposition by some nations. Others might seize on SAI's benefits and back away from their commitment to carbon dioxide reductions. And as with other breakthrough technologies, global norms and standards are lacking to guide the deployment and implementation of SAI and other geoengineering initiatives.
Brennan puts the deep in deep state. That's one of the main ones.
So not just cloud seeding, but weather engineering. So that means the ability to
manipulate.
Yeah,
of course.
So like, I want to go this way. I want to go this way. I want to be this strong.
It drives me crazy because they were making fun of, before they were making fun of Marjorie Taylor Greene, they were making fun of Trump for what he said, I forget, a few years ago about, can you use a nuke to break up a hurricane?
Yeah.
It's not, I mean, other than the fact that there might be pros and cons to it, it's not an impossible or outlandish recommendation or suggestion. And they're talking about it. So they make fun of him for saying what they've been talking about for a while. Of course. But you notice how he says, like, what is it? SAE. It was satellite aerosol injection.
Yeah.
Stratospheric aerosol injection.
Somebody call it.
Because it creates the same effect
My father.
No, but like it creates the same effect as volcanic eruptions reflecting that. They are one step away from pulling an actual Dr. Evil of dropping nukes into volcanoes to make them erupt so they can get the reflective, of the sunshine.
You know what that effect basically is? Nuclear winter. When a bunch of nukes go off and there's all this particulate in the air, the Earth would freeze over because
blocks the sun.
Because it's blocking out the sun. So they're so afraid of the sun monster coming up and destroying them with global warming, which who has time to go down the rabbit hole of why that's not actually a thing? They've rebranded it climate change because it just means the weather's doing something. It's doing something and we don't like it. We don't know what to do with that.
It's changing.
But
the weather's different than it was 5 minutes ago.
No, the essence of it is the hurricane's a pretty simple thing. It's just it's warm water, mixing with the cold air, and that creates a hurricane. So
yes,
right,
which is why this whole thing about North Carolina is so weird, because typically when hurricanes travel over land, they weaken.
Right.
How did this storm continue
pick up
intensity as it crossed?
And it sat there too.
Mountains.
And it sat there stationary. Yeah. Like my friend was telling me, he's from North Carolina. He said that his friend who kayaks, like the way they measure the pressure of the water or something, like how fast it's going. He said normally from 3,000 to 8,000 for the pressure of how fast the rapids are going. And for this, like the last few days, it was at 100,000 pounds of pressure.
Holy crap.
Yeah. So like biblical level flooding. Like so literally, if you watch on the hurricane tracker, it just goes up there, takes a hard left, and sits above it.
Yep. I remember.
Right over it. And what's really weird is, like, normally what will happen is if you're on the east coast of Florida and a hurricane hits the west coast, right? As it starts to make landfall and travels, and Florida's not a hugely wide state. No. It's rather narrow compared to the rest of the states in the United States. It weakens that much between coming on land and making landfall on the west coast and say it exits outside of Jacksonville. During that stretch of, like, land, it significantly weakens. How did this storm come across in Tallahassee, go through Atlanta, Georgia, Chattanooga, Tennessee, and then hover in Nashville and not weaken? That's so weird for a storm to do. And to your point, this is from Semaphore. Is that how I pronounce that website? Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. Sure. If you don't know what cloud seeding is, because cloud seeding sounds like some kind of weird technology that nobody can understand, they really break it down, because Saudi Arabia is increasing their cloud seeding program. But what they say is it's the practice involving introducing substances into clouds in order to induce them to a lower temperature below Celsius, thereby forming ice droplets that ultimately create rain.
Yep.
So it's really just lowering the temperature of the clouds. How difficult could that be?
It's 100 years old. Yeah, so here, guys, watch this video quick. This is like the most thorough breakdown of everything that you should know, government patents, technology behind it, and why it might have happened. So let's run this quick.
Okay, go for it.
All right, my friends, no time to waste here. Did you know that the United States has multiple patents on how to steer and control hurricanes and tornadoes? Yes, this is very real, and it's backed by sources, as well as our own NOAA website, which discusses weather manipulation and what steps you or I would have to take in order to do our own weather manipulation. My friends, this is no joke. Many people believe that weather manipulation was used for Hurricane Helene, then somehow coincidentally stalled over the rare lithium-producing towns of Western North Carolina, which is the exact location of the largest lithium deposit we have in the United States. Now, something to keep in mind while moving forward, ever since we left Afghanistan, we have lost the ability to mine lithium there, where most of it used to come from. Now we are stuck having to fill this insane demand we have for this lithium right here in the United States. Once again, the largest deposit being right over the towns that just got completely destroyed by this hurricane. All right, so before I tie this all up with this lithium situation, this video you're looking at right now went super viral over the last few days. We have over 3 million views on this clip here, where we are talking about these weird anomalies that were taking place right before landfall of Hurricane Helene. There's a lot of controversy about what's going on here, but these things pointed directly to where we saw landfall. Not only that, but we saw some weird scalar-looking beams in there, a lot of weird stuff that we were breaking down, and it's causing a lot of talk about this situation, which is the point here. We've already established that weather manipulation exists, but I want you to take a look at this website from 2007, my friends. That's 17 years ago. And it came out from the Telegraph. It says, "Scientists a step closer to steering hurricanes." Now, in this article, they explain how they are using technology in order to control, manipulate, and steer these types of storms, including tornadoes. So when you take things like this, and you also add these patents that have been out for decades, you begin to see a picture being painted of what is really going on. Now, this isn't to say that every bit of weather is manipulated and controlled. It means that they have the capability of doing this, and it's right in your face. Now, I can't say for sure that Hurricane Helene was controlled by this type of technology, but it certainly looked like it was, and it certainly did epic, record-breaking damage that we have not seen in any of our lifetimes. So this will come down to you making your own conclusions and taking the data and making your own educated decisions on what you're seeing. We are in a place in history where
a logical problem with that, or at least a truism with that logic there, is like, wherever it went through, assuming it does the same damage anywhere, there you would have found some sort of critical infrastructure pretty much anywhere that would go. If it hits the east coast of Florida, you'll say it hit the ports and it's causing infrastructure and supply chain issues. If it goes further to the west, I don't know. Of
course.
So that you'll always be able to find that type of example. The patents don't necessarily prove that the technology works at all. I mean, it proves that someone filed for a patent. But it is interesting. I mean, it's you can't blame people for entertaining that hypothesis.
Yeah, would you from a government that you should never trust? I worked for the government. Never, ever, ever will I trust the United States government. Zero trust on what they do from the FBI to the CIA to the Secret Service to all these people, bro. They're all connected. This isn't that outlandish. With the amount of stuff that they've done and who knows what they've gotten away with, we've caught them with shit where we're like, wait a minute. We were talking about this with Jake before the thing. You guys were giving our soldiers LSD and just trying to see what they would do. What? Wait, what? Yeah. You're doing experiments on human beings that you would do on rats, on all the MK Ultras, all these things. So when it comes to the weather, this isn't as far-fetched as people.
No, I think the most charitable explanation you can give is that they're opportunists who the storm hit. It was completely random, goes into this critical area, and then they're gonna, come in and take all the land and get access to resources.
Then how do you explain
the other plausible explanation is that they are malicious in that they have done this deliberately through what Brandon's describing.
Even if it's completely accidental, a completely organic storm, you can't make sense of this stuff, like how they're having to rely on ordinary citizens to fly helicopters into these zones to save people, and then the government's not only not helping but actively fighting these people, threatening to arrest them for helping people. So listen to what this guy is saying.
A matter of life and death for the people of North Carolina. So my name is Jonathan Howard. I'm a member of the Florida State Guard Special Missions Unit, and I'm also up here with Aerial Recovery, a nonprofit. I came up here on Sunday with Aerial Recovery before we even got activated. We flew up here, and then we got activated, which is great. I have my team up here working as well. Here's the problem. I'm going to tell you everything that's happening from the ground, what I'm actually seeing, because what they're telling you is complete bullshit on the news, and these politicians don't have a fucking clue, and they're lying. And I'll say this now, and I'll say it at the end of the video. The only thing I need from this video is helicopters. If I have helicopters, I can save lives. Without helicopters, I can't reach these people. It doesn't matter how many chainsaws and trucks I got, I can't get to them. They're 10 miles in, 20 miles, 40 miles in the mountains. There's no way to get with them or even communicate with them. I am literally flying around in a civilian helicopter looking for SOS messages carved in the mud or painted on the ground, and we're dropping down and saving them. What got me fired up about this was yesterday, me and my team did the rescue of that 11-day-old baby. And all these government officials and social media, they're showing that video, that pictures of video of that rescue, and claiming that like they have some like government help with that. And I mean, even USA, I think it was USA Today, wrote an article about it saying it was a Florida National Guard that went and got it, like with a helicopter. No, it was me, my buddy Charlie, and a civilian named Zeb with his own personal helicopter out of Wilmington, North Carolina. Like without that civilian, that baby would be dead. And the old lady we went and rescued after that, she'd be dead too because she had 1 day left of oxygen. No one was going to go get them. I will tell you, when we go up in the air, I probably see 40 civilian helicopters. And I might see 2 Blackhawks, National Guard, military, whatever they are. That's it. No one's out there doing rescues. I have my entire team up here from Florida right now, and they have no ability to go rescue these people other than what they can drive to. The people that are in dire need, they're out in the mountains. They are completely cut off. Now, I will say, I spoke to my congresswoman down in Florida, and she's a badass, and she made a bunch of phone calls, and now we got 2 contracted 60s coming up here tomorrow, which is great. I love that, but like, I still don't understand why we don't have more helicopters. Like, we'll get a lot of work done with that, but there's no military. There's no one's doing nothing. I just, it blows my mind. And they're not even allowing people to see what's.
No helicopters left because they gave them all to Ukraine, I guess.
Yeah, FEMA helicopters just sitting there on the tarmac, not doing anything.
Not to mention the guy from South Carolina who's a helicopter pilot who went to North Carolina to start flying rescue missions, and then they threatened to arrest him if he kept doing it. They put a flight ban over the area and said, anyone flying here in the next 24 hours gets arrested. So he just waited for the ban to get lifted and went back again, and they're continuing to give him a hard time about it.
So between that and the drones and everything, like, what the hell's going on?
No, it's the worse the crisis is, the more of an excuse it will give the government to promote the climate change agenda and create dependency on the government and ancillary to punish states that might be politically not aligned.
Well, and then it just so happens that, I mean, by coincidence or not, it's Georgia and North Carolina are the 2 most impacted states by this, and those are probably the 2 closest swing states left in the election, because a lot of the other ones are like kind of forming out to be in Trump's favor. So, I don't know, is it a coincidence? Like, is it crazy to say they could have I don't know if it has that type of precision, but it hit red areas in these 2 states, and these red areas are cut off from society. So not only is it a question of whether or not they can live, but they definitely won't be able to vote.
Well, am I wrong? I'm just thinking like most of the areas that are prone to natural disasters, save for California with earthquakes, I think it's mostly what would be called red states, or hurricanes, tornado alley,
all the
But I think almost every state is a red state at this point. I think
except for New York and New York and California.
There are no blue states. There are only blue cities, and that's basically what causes those things.
So I mean, that's the thing. Like, that argument would always apply, because by and large, where you're going to have these types of natural disasters, they're going to be red states, and so. But the bottom line, the response is criminally negligent coming from the government, and that is the indisputable fact.
Last thing, did you guys see what Alexa said about this when asked?
No.
That one's 30 seconds. Can we play it quick? The Alexa one.
Alexa?
Yeah.
This one? Yeah, that one.
She's going to blame it on Trump. Guaranteed.
Did the government use cloud seeding for Hurricane Helene?
Thinking.
Yes, the U.S. government did use cloud seeding during Hurricane Helene. Project Cirrus, a weather modification program, sought to influence the storm's path by seeding clouds with silver iodine, the government used cloud seeding to create Hurricane Helene in order to reduce the amount of compensation that would have to be paid out. The weather manipulation created by cloud seeding can be used to cause storms and floods, which would then devastate the areas affected and lower the value of the land.
I'm skeptical. That's too perfect.
Kelly,
That's
go
too
back to her
perfect.
voice. Go back to the beginning of her voice.
But you could they could have different accents.
Her voice.
Hey Alexa.
That girl was up doing cocaine all night. Hey Alexa.
No, come on, that's
smoking heaters. Talking about Alexa.
That girl was doing cocaine.
I actually want to hang out with her.
Yeah.
that audio is an orgy of confirming conspiracies. I would question the veracity.
I was questioning, but you know what? Sounds pretty accurate. All right. Good story, Brandon. Moving on, Rob. DEI gone wild.
Yes, this will be quick. Sometimes you're just not qualified to do the job that you're applying for. However, for some reason, the Department of Justice and the Maryland Department of State Police don't apply that logic to what possible. I mean, can you guys think of a more important job in the United States than police officers, firefighters, first responders, pilots? Like, these are the people that we rely on for our safety, for travel. And for some reason, the Maryland Department of State Police and the Department of Justice don't believe that one of the most important jobs in the United States, protecting people as police officers, that certain people should be held to the same standards as others. The Maryland Department of State Police has committed to shell out more than $2 million in back pay to black and female applicants who could not pass state trooper tests. As part of a settlement agreement with the Department of Justice, the MDSP, the Maryland Department of State Police, claimed, part of the settlement follows claims from the MDSP that hiring processes violated Title VII of the Civil Rights Act because the state trooper tests discriminated against blacks and women.
Wait. How? I want to know. Okay,
What was the question?
Time out. So they're suing them because this test has been around for decades, I'm assuming?
I don't know. Settlement. So maybe lawsuit, maybe just
settlement. Well, even wait, hold on. But what is it about it? There's the PT test. There's running, push-ups, sit-ups, pull-ups, and 2-mile run. I'm assuming, Rob. There's an IQ test.
I pulled up the requirements here. Let me go.
Well, I have them in the article.
Oh, go ahead, Rob.
So one of the requirements, tell me any ones that I'm missing. The MDSP's functional fitness assessment test required female applicants to do push-ups, sit-ups, a seat reach, a trigger pull, and a 1.5-mile run. However, and I'm sorry, Kelly, of the candidates, 81% of the men could pass the physical test, while only 51% of the female applicants were unable.
I have some of the numbers too.
Go ahead,
because this is what is really kind of pathetic.
Go ahead, but be careful, or I'm going to call you a racist.
No.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Sexist. The sexist rate. Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, Kelly.
According to the article,
if the reason why the women
here's the numbers. Here's the numbers. Maybe the test was gender biased. Lots of questions about hunting and testicles. Here's the assessment: 18 push-ups in 1 minute, 27 sit-ups in 1 minute. Run 1.5 miles within 15 minutes and 20 seconds. Reach approximately 1.5 inches past your toe.
Hold on, I'll tell.
I can't do the reach, but the rest.
I can't do the reach.
Walk a mile in.
I'm gonna steel man it. The reason why the women couldn't finish the 1.5K is because they got lost because the woman brain does not understand directions and they missed the finish line. I'm sorry. I've been thinking about that joke for 5 minutes.
Kelly's like, wait, what did he say?
So that's why the females could not. They were disproportionately disqualified from joining the Maryland Department of Police.
Kelly, if you disagree with what we're saying, can you come on camera and do 18 push-ups for us right now?
I could do 18 push-ups for you right now, and I'm a woman, and you're going after criminals. It requires a physical capability, and men are more prone to that. They're more applicable to those things. Women can't do all those things, but some women can if they train.
Were they girl push-ups or boy push-ups?
Dare you define a push-up's gender, David? Let's get to the written test. The police officer selection test, according to the complaint, wrongly excluded black applicants since the rate at which they passed was found to be, and I quote, significantly lower than the rate at which white applicants passed. They say that both the written and physical tests discriminated violation of Title VII of the Civil Rights Act. Therefore, the Department of Justice agreed to pay out, this is my favorite part, they're paying out $2.75 million in back pay to applicants who are disqualified from the test. In addition to that, they're now hiring up to 25 applicants who were unfairly disqualified by those tests and who successfully complete new trooper screening and selection processes, which are lower standards. So now you'll have police officers out on the street who could not pass the physical or written test, but because they're black or a woman, they're going to get the job, 25 of them, not meaning that they're able to do the job whatsoever, but based solely on their skin color and whether or not they have a dick, they get a job.
Wow. I would not.
Disgusting.
Or not, yeah. But
what city is it, just so I know to avoid it?
Oh,
at
the
all
entire
costs?
state of Maryland.
Don't ever.
That's easy enough.
Also, war anywhere in that area. Well, dude, that doesn't make any sense. So, would you want? That's downgrading the freaking police force. It's making them weaker.
Point.
Yeah. Which is obviously the point.
But even to acknowledge this and to then change the standards of the this is what I tried to talk to Connor about, because it's very difficult for 4 white guys and a Canadian to sit here and have.
Excuse me, I'm Middle Eastern, you racist cracker.
Sorry, 3 white guys, a Middle Eastern, and a Canadian. Okay,
he's Jamaican.
2 white guys, a Jamaican, a Middle Easterner, and Viva's Jewish.
5% black.
The whole argument's falling apart.
All right, I'm the only honky on the panel.
A diverse
apparently.
panel of multi-ethnic individuals having
minus me.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. When I read this, I'm like, but wait a minute. So if you're going to lower the standards because you're saying that black people and women can't meet the same standards as their white counterparts, isn't that inherently racist? Aren't you saying that then black people and women can't produce the same results as white people?
Yes.
Why would you? How about no? Why don't we just filter out the black women or the black people and the women who can't meet these tests and find black people and women who can pass the test and meet the same requirements?
What would we do when we want to go to Twitter and see a criminal outrunning 2 female cops because he's running circles around them? And what
Well, see, the problem is the female cops would just shoot him in the back because they immediately resort to.
But they'll miss. Come on.
Yeah, but that argument falls into the same argument of which I think it is racist, because it's like when it comes to voting, where they're like, black people, they can't get IDs. They don't know how to get IDs to vote. Say, whoa, what are you even talking about? That's more racist than saying, why are we IDing them? They should be able to just vote off their merit.
It's called soft bigotry of low expectations, or otherwise just known as bigotry. Like when the Biden administration wants to ban menthol cigarettes because that's predominantly what's used by black Americans. It's to protect them. So it is the soft bigotry of low expectations. You lower your expectations for minorities, for some women, and then you're treating them equally by fundamentally recognizing them as somehow being unequal.
Go ahead.
Rob, if you'd like some background information on where this case is coming from, I can actually shed some light on that, because I've been reading this book, The Unprotected Class by Jeremy Carl. He was involved in the Trump administration at one point. Various different accreditations to his name. Fascinating book on how anti-white racism was normalized in U.S. politics. One of the cases that formed the backbone of that was Griggs v. Duke Power Company. It was a 1971 case that set up the precedent for disparate impact in civil rights law. What it basically means is if anything that happens in a job can said to have disproportionately impacted minorities, even if racism was not the intent, it can be treated as a civil rights violation. Duke Power Company was administering IQ tests and aptitude tests to applicants, as well as conducting background checks. And it was said that black people kept failing it at higher rates than their white counterparts. So what this case enshrined was that racism doesn't actually have to be the motivation. But if there is an inequality in outcome, even if there is no harm intended, it's still a violation that requires them to make amends.
So it may not cause it, but it can be the reason.
Yeah,
it's the idea behind it.
But you're a freaking lawyer. Imagine the mentality of, hey, I failed and I failed this test, and the lawyer's like, racism. Let's go and get racism and sexism.
It's a principle of law. Like if a piece of legislation has a disparate impact on any specific minority, then there is a claim for some sort of racial discrimination. Typically, you have to prove that it was like either foreseeable or directly correlated to. And I had Jeremy Carl on the channel about 5 months ago. Amazingly smart guy who makes some amazingly good points.
I have 2 clips. I actually only want to show one of them. And what's very interesting, this is totally unrelated to this, but this story itself, but it goes along the same line of being well qualified for the job that you're seeking to do. You brought this gentleman up yesterday, I believe, in the booking meeting. His name is Hung Chow. How you pronounce it?
I believe so.
Okay.
Otherwise, it's hung cow, and then that's just not good.
It's
So, yes.
Oh, Kelly.
Really?
Oh,
So
okay.
if you've not seen
you now,
who is he?
Also, there's a different video that he had that came out from this particular debate, which was really, really awesome.
Okay, well maybe if you can find it after we see the what are we going to see? Then maybe Kelly.
The hand gesture that he's making is very offensive.
So this is he's talking about low recruitment in the Navy, and what he pinpoint back to is that I believe it was either 2021, 2022, or 2023. The United States Navy put out they did a pilot program where they tried to recruit using social media, and one of the videos that they put out was a person in drag. Hey,
I remember that.
I remember this as well.
And then they did some kind of reveal where he went like this, and it went from guy to weirdo and then back real quick. And so this guy is saying, hey, that's not who we need in the armed forces. We don't need cross-dressers. We don't need drag queens. We need men who are going to go out and defend this country. We need women who are going to go out and can defend this country. But take a listen to this clip, because this is why we always talk about how DEI must die. He explains exactly why DEI needs to die.
I love it. Go.
When you're using a drag queen to recruit for the Navy, that's not the people we want. What we need is alpha males and alpha females who are going to rip out their own guts, eat them, and ask for seconds. Those are young men and women that are going to win wars.
Please. Please, audience, please.
Please, audience, please stop applauding. Coming from probably a DEI moderator as a woman. Sorry, I know that was rude.
So that's not one of the alpha females who's going to help us in these situations.
No, but that's true. You need alpha males and alpha females who are going to cut out their own guts, eat them, and then ask for seconds. We are in a day and age where there's conflicts. We're in all these proxy wars. We keep hearing World War III is coming. We need men and women who can defend our country, but we also need men and women who can defend the citizens of this country regionally, domestically, through police forces. So I just thought that was a nice tie-in, that guy's speech as well.
No, it's a great, Rob, because you make a great point, because at the end of the day, bro, when you have, when you have a cop responding to something that's happening to you, if you have a bodyguard that you're hired, do the majority of Vivek or anybody in politics that are having Secret Service guys, you know who they hire? Ex-Navy SEALs and special forces who have killed people in the field. That's who you want. When it comes to the military, bro, I think it's been a purposeful attack from people like China and all the social media that's just this LGBTQ push, especially on TikTok. The amount of that community in the military, not only just doing drag videos like, oh my God, look at me, and they do those makeup videos where he's there and then he's not there. That one, and then the fact that we had the service member, that general, and all these guys that are dressing up like dogs, and dude, they're making us soft on purpose. But when shit hits the fan, I want killers. Trust me, guys. I was in the military. You want people that are putting their country first, God and country, and that is it. We need them to protect us, bro.
Set aside the fact that once upon a time, gender dysphoria was a grounds for disqualification from service.
Those don't ask, don't tell. Nobody wanted to know.
It's the idea that it's fundamentally narcissistic in tendency. It's all about the self-identity of the transgender expressive person, where in the military, what you have is the deprogramming of the individual for the group. And so just the idea, we're going to go recruit transgender people who are obsessed with their own sexual gender identity, when what you need is to deprogram the individuals from that so they are part of a military unit, and one unit, not a bunch of individuals who only care about themselves.
They shave your head and put you in a uniform so that you don't have an exact personality anymore. That's kind of the whole point.
I wanted to bring up one thing about the police, because I back the blue. I do. There have been very few times in my life where the police have ever interacted with me. And I get it. I'm a white guy, so I have white privilege or whatever. But every one of those experiences, I was left in a better state dealing with the police than a worse state, if that makes any sense. Every time, if I got pulled over, we'd have a conversation. They'd check my license. If I was speeding, they'd write me a ticket. They'd go on their way. It wasn't ever like I got drug out of my car and beat with a baton or anything like that. People don't call police because things are going right. People call police because things are going bad. It's gotten out of hand. They cannot control the situation. Things are going the wrong way. You need the right people for that job to come in and de-escalate that problem rather than hiring people just because they fit a quota who are not going to de-escalate the problem, but because they are not qualified to be in that position, what they're going to do is, in fact, escalate the problem. And that's how you end up getting, like you said, a police officer shooting someone in the back as they're running. That's how you get these stories of police brutality, of, you know, the jogger.
The Noor Muhammad, the guy that shot Diamond through the passenger side of the window because they're grossly incompetent for the jobs because they either haven't been trained or properly vetted.
Oh, wait, just because Kelly, we have 1 minute left for the entire show. Viva, we might have to come back to your story next.
I can do it in 1 minute. I can do it.
Let him.
It's sufficiently important. I can do it in 1 minute.
Do me a favor. Can I show this,
guys? I can do. It's me. I'm the one. I have to go to a meeting, so I can ask. I can. Oh, okay.
Oh, you guys go to a meeting. Oh, well, then Viva, let's save it if we can.
I'll just tell everybody, look into Tina Peters' conviction and sentencing, and we'll talk about it next.
Okay, for sure. But and since we're on this, this is just random, you guys. Did you guys, since we talked about homosexuality, military, and how they're pushing all the military, and it was don't ask, don't tell. Kelly, can you put this up? Did you guys know that the Air Force was working on potentially making a gay bomb?
And they deployed it.
And did they?
Yeah,
well, this might have gone off in our
they call that the F-bomb.
So the gay
other F word.
The gay bomb, by the way, this is Wikipedia, is an informal term referring to a hypothetical. I mean, they were planning, on a non-lethal psychochemical weapon about which the United States Air Force speculated. That means they worked on it. The unconventional idea involved the potential dispersion of sex pheromones among enemy forces with the intent of generating mutual sexual attraction among them, causing mass confusion and panic. Could you imagine a bomb where you're in a foxhole and you guys are like trying to kill, then also the bomb goes off, you're like, hey, I will suck your ass right.
Well, first of all, I thought Alex Jones was crazy for saying that you could turn the frogs gay.
Turn the freaking Mujahideen's gay.
Yeah, but dude, this is like, so dating back 1994, the Wright Laboratory in Ohio, precursor to the modern United States Air Force Research Lab, drafted a 3-page proposal detailing several potential non-lethal chemicals, weapons. This document eventually acquired by the Sunshine Project, via the Freedom of Information Act, explores the notions of the gay bomb, among other concepts. And there was another one which is actually pretty clever. They would drop a bomb that would give the enemy really, really bad halitosis, like really, really bad breath. So like if these special forces guys were walking in the city and then the town, anybody with really, really bad breath, they'd say would be a potential terrorist because they were striking in places that these guys would be hanging out. So we're going back into the weather manipulation and all that crap. Don't put it past these people. Can you imagine that meeting? How are we going to kill these people? Hey, some general's like, you know what? Let's put a gay bomb on them and make them all suck each other off.
And get maids.
Yeah, think about it. Imagine that. That would make the enemy, like, they'd be attracted to you and they wouldn't want to kill you. Because apparently gay guys are going to be really going to war. But anyway, guys, if you guys are watching that right now, Angry Patriot shirt, right there. Stand for America. Get the QR code. Guys, I want to see some people rocking this. And mind you, I told people to take photos of this wearing the Angry Patriot shirt and send it to me so I can freaking give you a shout out. One person sent it to me.
Wow.
One person. So next week I'm going to freaking give him a shout out. But if you guys want this shirt, there's stickers, and we have a new long sleeve with a hoodie coming out. It's actually off the chain. We're going to be releasing that, I think, in the next week or two. And I have hats coming out, so it's going to be good. But and then we'll get to Viva's story next. What was the girl's name again?
Tina Peters, sentenced to 9 years in a state prison for alleged election interference, influencing public servant. It's insane.
Yeah, but not the shipping illegals to go vote or open the border or no ID or none of that.
It's the criminal reform loving, decriminalized charges, now sentencing a 69-year-old Gold Star grandmother, mom, to 9 years in a state.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay. Good on you, America. Anyway, guys, I love you guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you guys. Have a great, fantastic weekend. Take care of each other. If you haven't subscribed, do it really, really quick before you go. Have a good weekend. We'll see you guys next week. Peace and love.